Welcome back, Twisters. Today we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why the Florida Panthers could win the 2020 Stanley Cup. Well, first of all, they have to win a round because it's been, nearly a quarter century since that magical run of 1996. But let's get into those 5 reasons. But before we do, make sure that if you haven't already, hit the red subscribe button down below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, I'm wearing my Florida Panthers scarf right here. As a matter of fact, when I bought that white jersey that you see behind me there, the current design, it's a Reebok there. Somebody actually threw in this scarf as well, so I didn't even know he was going to do that. One of the coolest little gifts that you could receive without even expecting it. So anyway, with the Florida Panthers, they entered these playoffs 6th in goals for, 29th in goals against, not so good there, 10th in power play, 20th on the PK, 7th in shots for, 22nd in shots against, meaning they surrender more shots, and 13th in faceoff percentage. But fear not, Panthers fans. I have a feeling that this team is actually capable of a deep run should they get by Barry Trotz and the Islanders. So, reason number 1, Joel Quenneville, right? He's got 3 Stanley Cups under his belt in the 2010s with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's coached in 215 playoff games, has a record of 118 and 97, pretty respectable there. So, even though they have to go up against Barry Trotz, I mean, it's pretty advantageous if Coach Q, a multi-cup champion, is behind the bench there. So, that's reason number 1. And besides, he looks like the logo, am I right? Reason number 2, goaltending could be a non-issue, and in fact, it could be a real asset. So, we all know Sergei Bobrovsky had a bad year by his standards, 3.23 goals against, 900 save percentage. Not good whatsoever, especially with that contract. But let's look at the silver lining here. So first of all, it's not just the fact that he's won 2 Vezina trophies in his career. He played pretty well in the playoffs last year for Columbus, and he really excelled in that first round against Tampa Bay. So he can flip that switch. And I think there's a chance he can do that now that he's in a new season, essentially. So I want to put some faith in Bob there. And should Bob falter, they might be in luck with this guy named Chris Driedger here. So he appeared in just 12 games, made 11 starts for Florida, but look at these numbers. 2.05 goals against and a .938 save percentage. That is night and day different from Bobrovsky this year, so I almost want to see this guy in the net, but either way, they'll go with Bob, and if things take a turn for the worst, they can go with Driedger, and who knows, maybe he can put up similar numbers to what he did in the regular season there. All right, reason number 3. Well, we already know about Barkov and Huberdeau, right? But let's look at some of these other key players in terms of contributing some of that needed goal production and play production. You've got Mike Hoffman, Yevgeny Dodonov, and you've got Erik Haula. Now, I mentioned these 3 guys specifically because guess what? They're all unrestricted free agents after these playoffs. And these guys are capable of really lighting up the scoreboard there. So Dodonov, he is just in his 3rd full year in the NHL, I believe, and he's been perennially among the most underrated playmakers out there. So I love watching this guy play. I think he's even as exciting as a Jonathan Huberdeau. And even though his production dipped a little bit this year, he only had 47 points in 69 games after 70 and 64 the 2 years prior. Of course, more games played, but he scored 11 power play goals for this team, so he's very lethal. Now for Sharks legend Mike Hoffman, he's 30 years old and making $5 million, so he doesn't want to be making less, in his 30s, so he's got to definitely step up in the playoffs to justify a future contract. He had 29 goals in this abbreviated season after 36 the year prior, so he's a 30-goal scorer, and he also had 11 goals on the power play, so you've got both of these great weapons for the man advantage, and that could actually be crucial for Florida as we get into the playoffs here. And then you look at a solid depth piece in Erik Haula, who was very briefly a Florida Panther, played with Carolina and with Vegas before that. With the Golden Knights, like a lot of those guys, he broke out. He had 55 points in that magical run for the Golden Knights, and he had a respectable 22 points in his previous 44 playoff games. So having that guy on your 3rd line, and he can win you some draws. I mean, this guy is definitely a bit of a Swiss Army knife that we don't really talk about all that often. So I really like those 3 players heading into the postseason. Number 4, should the Panthers play aggressive? I think that can definitely pay off for them. They had the third most takeaways in the NHL this season. Yeah, they had the sixth most giveaways, but still, they can afford to be aggressive because if they need to, I don't know, get a little bit chippier out there, they took the 7th fewest penalties, so I like that about them. And they have the personnel to actually take the puck away. And it's not just the forwards who are taking the pucks away. There are 3 defensemen as well who were toward the top in turnovers forced for this team. So I like a strategy where they can actually play up tempo, try to get aggressive, playing high up on the forwards when they're in their own zone defensively, maybe forcing some turnovers, some odd man chances, and putting a lot of pucks in the net. So I think that's a good point, number 4. And for number 5, they have more sandpaper than you think. I think of some of the role players with Quenneville's teams when they won the Stanley Cup. Guys like Dave Bolin, Jamal Mayers, Brian Bickle, Chris Versteeg, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, and others. And I think, there are some players like that on the Florida Panthers. Guys who can block shots, guys who can hit, who play very well defensively that we just don't really talk about because this is such a top 6 team. In terms of their top 2 forward lines. So look at some of these guys here. All right, first of all, Colton Sevier, this guy is a defensive wizard. I mean, it boggles my mind why players like him, like Cizikas, like Boone Jenner, how these guys aren't perennially on the Selke Trophy nominees list because they are the definition of defensive forwards, in my opinion. The numbers certainly justify this. So Colton Sevier, another guy, Noel Acciari, he hits everything that moves out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually led forwards and blocked shots. Anytime you have a guy who's over like 60 or 70 block shots, that's fantastic. He had over 100 in this abbreviated season. And then you even look at the defensemen like Mark Pysyk. He had some good numbers in terms of defensive efficiency. And again, we don't talk about him all that much. And I even see some arguments that Anton Stralman still brings some good defensive upside. And as well as Josh Brown, another defenseman I knew nothing about, but who got a lot of games this year, and I think he backed it up pretty well. So I think that if these guys are called upon even more this year, they can actually help the Panthers make a deep run and not put as much stress on the forwards to be always putting up goals. So anyway, those are my 5 reasons why I think the Panthers make a case, although I think it's going to be very challenging going up against Trotz and the defensive-minded Islanders. But I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you see this Panthers team actually taking a step that they haven't taken in a couple of decades now that you have players like Barkov, Huberdeau, Dodonov, Hoffman, and hopefully a playoff rejuvenated Sergei Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky! Anyway, let me know down in the comments below. Curious to know your thoughts. And stay tuned for more playoff-related videos, more 5 reasons why. We've got a few more coming up. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that lovely notifications bell down below. That way you know I'm putting out content. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you later. Ciao, and...